Our theme species is often mistaken for a piece of trash just floating in the water, and they'll lay motionless much of the time, looking to ambush small bait fish or crustaceans when they get too close.
Yep, this hunting technique fools their prey and a lot of anglers too. If you haven't guessed it yet, we're talking tripletail on this week's Florida Insider Fishing Report, which starts now.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to the Florida Insider Fishing Report. This week, Rick is obviously not standing next to me, but the one and only Captain Jim Ross from the Real Legend Central East region. Jim, are you ready to talk tripletail today?
I am so ready because it's one of my favorite species. I love chasing them year-round. We actually do better on them in the fall time a lot of times than we do in the summertime. So we've got a season of tripletail coming to us in the next couple of months.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
All right, well, we are happy to have you back. And by we, I of course mean Dave Farrell and I, who's at the CCA workbench. How goes it over there, Dave?
It's very good. You know, Jim's right. In the Central Florida region, we have some of the best tripletail there are. They get really big where we live, and there's no fish I'd rather eat than a tripletail.
No fish?
No.
Number one on the
Number
menu.
one.
Wow, that means a lot because Dave likes to eat.
Yes, I do.
In the best of all ways. All right, let's get the girls going in the Fish Bites East region where Captain Mike Holliday has tripletail tips galore. Let's get to casting, Mike. How you doing?
I'm good. Blackened with gorgonzola cheese is the way to go.
Oh, that's a good way too. That's
good.
It's amazing. So in my region, the majority of our tripletail action takes place inshore around the channel markers and floating crab pots in the Loxahatchee, St. Lucie, and Indian rivers. Now, we do catch tripletail on the ocean weed lines, but don't really have that buoy fishing out front like you see in the regions to the north of me. Most of the fish that we see up on the surface around the crab pots are juveniles. So a lot of the tripletail fishing that we do is blind casting to channel markers, looking for a big fish. And tripletail will eat everything from a live shrimp to a small bait fish like a juvenile mullet or threadfin. I like to target them with live shrimp. I put that on a Bass Assassin quick cork, which is a rattle cork. And I like it because you can throw it up current or upwind of the marker and then just let it drift back. So I always know where my bait is when it's coming back in front of the marker. And it keeps you from tangling on the marker. And you know when you get the bite because the cork will go down. You can also put a shrimp on a jig head, toss it to the marker, let it sink, and the bite will come usually on the sink. Now, the average tripletail in my region is going to be like 3 to 10 pounds, but we get fish up to 20 pounds or more. I got a photo from Captain John Young of Katie from California. She got this nice tripletail on a shrimp and jig in the Indian River on a channel marker.
Okay, Katie from California.
Now, the other bite we got going, the resident tarpon bites really picked up in the last couple of days in Indian and St. Lucie rivers, as well as at all the inlets in my region. There's also been quite a few fish around the spillways in both Jupiter and Port St. Lucie. The best action really has been at night around the bridges of the Indian River in Stewart and in Fort Pierce. Then again at dawn in the St. Lucie River around the Roosevelt Bridge and those marinas that are nearby. At night, the fish are feeding on mullet, both at the bridges and at the inlets. So, a live mullet fish up current of the bridge or drifted out the inlet with a tide is the way to go there. There's also been a decent flush of crabs around the bridges at dawn with smaller tarpon in that 20 to 40 pound range feeding on the crabs. The daytime fish, you can throw a mullet or a saltwater assassin Houdini colored 4-inch sea shad. The average tarpon in my region is going to be like 50 to 100 pounds. And I have a photo of that's Kenny St. Cyr of Palm Beach with a nice tarpon caught by Dave Boucher. That was caught in the crossroads area of the Indian River, and that fish ate a live threadfin.
Very nice. Well, tell us about the offshore bite, Mike.
Yeah, the August kingfish bite has been really consistent. Fish are spread out all over the region from the Juneau Pier all the way up to the Vero Cove. The best stuff has been on the reefs like the Loran Ledge, the 6 Mile Reef, and the offshore bar. And there's also been a lot of fish on the bait fish schools in close to shore, particularly in the afternoons when the wind is out of the west. Those fish seem to charge the beach a little bit more. You target them by pulling live threadfins, sardines, goggle eyes, or blue runners, put them out on a #4 wire stinger rig or a triple hook monofilament rig. When you get the bite, mark that spot, then just make circles, and you should be able to encounter the school again. Average kingfish right now is going to be 10 to 20 pounds, but there are some bigger fish like the one in this photo of Captain Hal Rosenblatt. He got that nice smoker king in 95 feet of water east of the St. Lucie Inlet, and that fish ate a live threadfin. The other bite we got going, the full moon snapper bite, been outstanding all week. Good action coming from the Loran ledge, the 90-foot reef off Jupiter, and even the shallow stuff like the sand pile off Stewart. It seems like a lot of the smaller muttons have moved in closer to shore to feed on the hatching turtles and the juvenile baitfish schools that are up in on the beach. Many of the muttons are under the 18-inch minimum size limit, but if you put in your time, you're going to get those legal fish. For bait, sardines, pilchards, threadfins, live or dead are going to work. A grump plug, a ballyhoo plug, those are all outstanding baits. Put them out on a 20 to 50 foot long, 50-pound fluorocarbon leader and 6/0 circle hook, and just enough weight to hold bottom. Average mutton's going to be like 5 to 15 pounds. And I got a photo the Captain Jonathan Earhart of Chaos Fishing Adventure sent me. That's one of the muttons I caught on the reef off Peck Lake, and they got that on a dead sardine.
Very nice, very nice. Well, tell us about what's going on in the freshwater with the bass this week, Mike.
Well, despite the summer heat, the South Florida peacock bass bite has been red hot in the Miami Airport lakes and the adjacent canals to those lakes, as well as the Blue Lagoon area, and all the way up into Palm Beach County in the Lake Ida Osborne chain. The best action really has been at dawn. It's mostly schooling fish running the shorelines or working the bridges and culverts. You can throw anything from a hammer time or an elite shad colored bass assassin elite shiner to a small prop bait or a bright colored clouser minnow fly. Anything small that looks like a bait fish would work. And then as the day heats up, a lot of those fish are moving out to the deeper holes where you can drop down a live shiner and just whack them, or fish like a fire tiger colored turbo shad on a 3/8 ounce jig head, just a little more lead to get it down. The peacocks are pretty comfortable with the heat, so you'll still find them on the shoreline structure like down trees, rock piles, and bulrushes. And the average peacock right now is 1 to 4 pounds, with fish to about 7 pounds being caught.
Well, that's awesome, Mike. Thanks for that great report. We're going to take the TH Marine hotspots for your East region from here. Captain Mike saying, catch and release snook at the Jupiter Inlet. Both tides are producing big fish on live croakers or sand perch. And then offshore, high-speed troll for the wahoo at dawn in 200 to 350 feet of water just off Palm Beach. Black and red R&R wahoo magnets are money right now.
Money, money, money. All right, speaking of money, we're going to keep reminding you of the Shoreline Showdown Surf Fishing Tournament Series presented by Fish Bites. 4 tournaments, 1 championship, and over $75,000 in guaranteed payouts, plus fishing for a chance to qualify to compete for the title of the Ultimate Surf Angler. We're 2 down with 2 more to go, so for more information, scan that QR code or visit shorelinesshowdown.com. All right, now let's take lunch in the Takeuchi Keys region, where Captain Ridge Murphy is helping us from catch to cook. Make our mouths water, Ridge.
When it comes to tripletail fishing, I can't help but get hungry. Italian breadcrumbs and baked beans is the way to go, though. I don't know if I agree with Mike on that one. So tripletail is another fun way to learn how to sight fish. They can be caught inshore and offshore on light tackle Fenwick rods. And when you're offshore, you want to look for tripletail off of floating debris and big patches of sargassum wings. And on the inshore side of things, you want to look for tripletail floating on the surface on their sides near a structure like trees or crab trap floats. And they'll be either blacked out with a slight olive green tint to them or grayed out with red and pink rashes on them, depending if they're spawning or not. They eat shrimps and small bait fish like pilchards or cut ballyhoo or squid, and they will also eat an artificial like a gulp shrimp or lime truce bass assassin paddletails. Be aggressive with your cast and pay attention to the current because it's going to affect your presentation. Make your bait look as natural as possible, sliding it to the fish, and chances are he's going to sink down out of sight and then attack from below. Don't get discouraged if they sink out. More times than not, there's going to be another opportunity or another one close by. And I have a photo of Louis Argiri with a nice tripletail that we caught running from spot to spot in the skiff.
Very nice.
Hi, Louis.
Also inshore, we got snook fishing. Snook with the big moon has been really good. The early and late bite has been pretty active. work a bass assassin, jerkbait, and paddle tails on the rig we list around the islands and the edges of the flats. And for the live bait guys, we're starting to see early stages of the mullet run in the northern sections of the region. Have a cast net ready on your up-and-coming trips. You're going to spot lock or anchor up on structure nose hooking mullets with 6-0 to 8-hole eagle claw circle hooks with a 40 to 60 pound leader for the big snook. Try to upscale your tackle when you're chasing these bigger fish so that you can catch them at a reasonable amount of time before the sharks get them. You're going to use 6500s or 8510 spinning reels with 40 to 65 pound Berkeley braided line on a Fenwick heavy fast or extra heavy elite rod. Water temps are hot and pulling the oxygen out of the water, so keep that in mind. And speaking of big snooks, I have a photo of Chrissy Gosden with a really nice snook that we got out in the backcountry.
Well, that is a good one to keep away from the sharks right there. That was a good job.
Man. It was an awesome fish.
Well, let's go offshore.
What's that, bud?
I said, let's go offshore.
I spoke to Captain Sammy Milazzo off of Vice Versa out of Worldwide, and he says that offshore fishing has been pretty hit or miss for everyone around the charter docks all up and down the rip. The mahi fishing kind of went to crap, but the tunas have picked up. The live chum pilchards on the west hump or the 409 for nice blackfin tunas. Look on your depth finder for tuna marks as you bump into the current, and then start live chumming with the pilchards, making the tunas come up in the water column. You're going to free line 2 spinning rods out the back of the boat with nose hook pilchards on eagle claw live bait hooks, and you're going to use 30 to 40 pound fluorocarbon leader. And while fighting the fish, use small short pumps as you wind the fish in. This will help keep the fish's head angled up as he does his circles underneath the boat, and this momentum will be in your favor to help him catch him before the sharks do. I have a photo of Captain Sammy Milazzo with a bunch of tunas that they got on their trip the other day.
Oh, very cool. Well, tell us about lobstering.
I spoke a little bit about this last week in my report, and after calling around, it seems like the lobstering has been not only good during the daytime, but also at night. The lobster diving has been good all up and down the Keys, and now that it's a few weeks from opening day, it's not nearly as crowded. Make sure to have a dive flag and a boat driver and a diving buddy to watch your back and keep you out of harm's way. And for the night owls, the bully netting has been really good. At first light, you'll pick away at them, scooping them up in the light. But then later it gets, the better they're going to start walking, so keep that in mind. Have a few castaway coffees in the cooler to keep you alert and on your toes, and make sure that you wear your kill switch, God forbid something does go wrong. Do some boat inventory before you go out. Make sure your running lights are working because you're not the only boaters out there.
Boy, isn't that the truth. Well, we appreciate the report this week, Ridge. That's a fantastic start to the Keys region for this week, and hopefully the guys and gals will be able to take advantage of that. I'll take your hot spots for the Keys region from here. Ridge says, inshore, those snook on those edges of the flats and around the islands, use live mullet or on that structure and hold it tight. Take care of the fish and get them back in the water quickly because the water's hot and they've been worn out by those sharks, and so you want to let them get away as best as you can. Offshore, tuna on the hump, live chum in those pilchards, free line the baits behind the boat and make sure you put some heat on those fish before those gray suited guys come up and get them.
Those sharks are bad, so make sure you do grab a castaway coffee and get your reeling on. All right, but now it's time to take a look at some tournaments going on in the Florida Keys. First, anglers fish for 7 species, September 20th through the 22nd, in the Herman Lucerne Memorial Backcountry Championship, a one-of-a-kind backcountry tournament that takes place only within the boundaries of Everglades National Park. Then is the Key Largo Rotaries Take Stock in Children Backcountry Challenge, which allows fishing day and night from Friday, October 4th to Sunday the 6th, followed by the presentation of awards for releases of redfish, snook, and trout in adult and junior divisions. Next, anglers compete for awards in 3 divisions, artificial fly and baits for the longest bonefish and permit during the 54th Annual Islamorada Fall All-Tackle Bonefish and Permit Championship, October 14th through the 16th. And finally, the formerly all-female casting for cats backcountry tournament, October 16th and 17th in Islamorada, now has co-ed and women's division, with proceeds funding Upper Keys efforts to spay, neuter, and care for feral cats. For more information on Keys tournaments, go to flakeys.com. All right, next we're checking out what kind of gear we'll need for some triple tail action at the CCA workbench for fish bites, trading post rigs and techniques. Dave, Dave.
And one thing you don't need for triple tail is any mango salsa or pineapple slaw or any of those blackening spices. This fish is perfect. With just butter on the grill, maybe fried. You don't need to mess with it.
No.
You don't need to mess with it.
Dave's just getting his food on over there. All right, and then we're sight casting into the Alto Equipment Southwest region with Captain Ronnie Houston. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Sirius XM Marine. Weather. Fish mapping. Entertainment. Penn. Let the battle begin. Casa Vieja Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Berkeley Prospect Chrome. Fish Bites Trading Post. The first choice of First Coast anglers. Castaway Coffee. One taste and you'll be hooked. And Daiquiri Deck. Food, drinks, friends.
Hey, it's time for the Fish Bites Trading Post Rigs and Techniques with Dave at the CCA Workbench. So let's talk some triple tail, Dave.
Well, you know, the triple tail's a really cool fish. He's called a triple tail because, you know, his second dorsal fin and his anal fin are really elongated, and they're so big they make him look like he has 3 tails, and that's why he's called a triple tail. He's also called a blackfish in a lot of places, the Gulf of Mexico and some places in North Florida. But they're just a really fun fish to catch when they're around. They fight like a devil. You know, if you catch one over 6 or 7 pounds, you know you're going to be in for a brawl. You know, they turn that wide body against you, and they like to go down. And so it's going to be a fight when you hook one.
I always, you know, when I see them laying on the top and they're just floating by themselves or next to a piece of debris, I always go, you know, at one point in time, this thing had to be related to a flounder. But as soon as you hook him, it's like, oh, he was part grouper too.
Right.
But you know, you were saying before we were talking, you were saying that they don't actually have any close relatives. They're kind of on their own.
They're in the family Libotidae, and they're the only one in that family. Their name is Libotus surinamensis. That's their scientific name. And you know, they lay on the surface like that and around other debris because they're trying to create shade for the little bait fish and whatnot. And when the little bait fish and shrimp and stuff get up underneath them in their shade, that's when they strike. You know, they're trying to be like a piece of flotsam, and that's how they make their living. Especially where me and you live, up on the shoals off Cape Canaveral. You can just run those shoals, especially during October, end of August, September. You know, October is probably the best month though, and you'll see what you said before, you'll see a trash bag laying out there, and if it's a big one, it looks like a big black trash bag, and you just pull up on it and stay, you know, 20, 30 feet away from it and cast some little stuff to it, and you're probably going to get a bite. And some of the lures that you can use, we got some, you know, little jigs with some fish bites on them there, you know, the butt kicker and the shrimp, you know, both of those are great. Anything that's small and imitates a crustacean or a little bait fish will work on a jig head. A bucktail jig works really well. We got a couple bucktails.
I like bucktails myself too because I'll put a little bit of scent, some kind of.
You spray some scent on there.
And it holds it, you know, better than a plastic does. So I really like bucktails myself.
The Bass Assassins, the little shiners, and that's the northern minnow, the baby shad. Those are excellent. They will react to those. Also a topwater plug like that little Berkeley popper there. You know, they are on the surface, so they are not shy about crashing a surface bait. You know,
one thing that I've seen with triple tail in particular, and a lot of guys can relate to this, when you're using a lure that's not got a scent to it, triple tail will swim up to it, put their nose on it, and try to sniff it. Don't let them sniff it. Take it away from them, and then keep that game of chase going on. And eventually they'll go, okay, well, I've just got to catch it and eat it. And so if you have an unscented bait, that's a way that you can trick their nose and overcome the predator sense to come and get it. Right,
and a lot of, you know, we're very lucky because we have a long chain, we have a long buoy chain out of the Cape Canaveral because it's pretty shallow for a little ways, and you know that's a big port with big boats coming in and out, so they have to have a lot of buoys, and those buoys are
great structure.
Triple tail magnets. Me and you went fishing not too long last year and caught you caught a really nice one, and you were able to mark them on the side scan before. We would go up to the buoy, and you'd mark You mark the buoy chain with the side scan and say, okay, there's one here. And we were able to cast to that fish and get them. Now, all these lures work great, but you know, the best thing to use would be a free-line live shrimp on either a little circle hook, a 4/0 circle hook, 20, 30-pound test, fluorocarbon. That Prospect Berkeley is really great. Or on a circle hook or a live bait. You know, the circle hook, because you know you might catch some smaller ones. The circle hook's kind of better because hopefully you won't always, you know, gut hook them. That live bait hook has a more tendency because they do suck a bait in.
Inhale it.
And if you come tight really slow with the circle hook, a lot of times you'll hook them in the corner of the jaw. It's a lot harder with a J hook.
I see you've got some floats here. Do you like to use the floats?
Yeah, the float works great as well. It allows you to adjust your presentation really well. And using one of these Savage Gear Manic shrimps under a float and popping that cork, that'll sometimes, or the crab will come up and get them. That Manic shrimp is, you know, modeled after a 3D shrimp. It's got that Duratec 12-inch tough TPE. It's very durable. It's got a little tail that'll kick, you know, every time you pop that cork. It looks like a real shrimp. And the same thing with that crab. You know, the crab actually has some scent in it. You were saying you like to put some scent on things.
Yes.
That crab comes in like 6 different colors and 3 different sizes, even little tiny ones. And it has a scent embedded in it. So, you know, a tripletail will eat that too. They like to eat crabs and shrimp.
One more thing to help them overcome their senses of this isn't a real thing that I should eat.
Right.
That's fantastic. Dave, great job tonight.
No worries.
Bree, where are we going next?
Learning a lot over there, gentlemen. All right, let's follow the tide all the way into the Alto Equipment Southwest region to find out the next catch with Captain Ronnie Houston. Go for it, Ronnie.
I hear you, Bree. Let's follow it. The tripletail. They can be caught all through the region, both on the inshore and offshore side. But typically, most people think you got to fish wrecks, crab pots, head pins, park boundary markers. Yeah, you can catch them that way, but that's not the only way you can catch them. Now, as the tides move in, tripletails make their way to the back shorelines, or shorelines, especially if there's a lot of blowdown. So once that tide gets high, they'll follow it in and get across some of that structure. A lot of times, the tripletail will be in the tide line. There's times I'm running the outer Gulf on the lower tide. Along that tide line, I'm running them over rather than going maybe to go snook fishing or red fishing. One important thing about the tripletails is you want to make sure you hook that big fish. You want to have strong hooks, strong quality jig heads, especially with bright colors. And you know what? People talk about baits. Just about any baits presented to them will work. You know, even a simple cut bait, doesn't matter what it is. Pilchard, shrimp, even squid, and a variety of bucktails like Jim was saying, and a variety of soft plastic shrimp and paddle tails. And I have a prime example of a picture of my brother. He goes out and all he does is target tripletails all day, and generally most of the time he catches them in the way I'm talking about now. All right, on the offshore side, the cobias. Reports in the last 2 weeks with the recent tropical storm passing through, and over the weekend, slightly cooler weather, there's been some scattered cobias showing up along the wrecks, the towers, and the artificial reefs. Even when you're running out there, you might come across them along turtles and manatees. And most of these fish right now are being sight casting, so anchoring up in some of these areas or simply running from spot to spot. You know, if the weather is moderate, you're going to see these fish on top. If not, dropping down large live baits in some of the areas I have mentioned. But also make sure you have some pitch baits ready, maybe in a 5-gallon bucket or in your live well that's readily accessible. Live herring, pinfish, live pilchards, or simply bucktails and swim baits. Or don't forget the old school eels and a fish that was just recently caught in the last couple days while fishing on mission fishing charters. Cobia down here in the southwest region.
Nice.
On the inshore side, redfish. It's about that time of year where the groups of reds should be moving in throughout the whole region. And I'm starting to see a prime example of that down in the 10,000 Islands. And most people don't look for it, but on those calmer, slicker days, you want to be reading that water while you're running, or maybe while you're on the trolling motor. Try to see what these fish might do, and you'll see pushes, or you'll see them slightly on top of the water. Figure out where they're at, and then maybe try to figure out where they're going. They're going to a happy spot. Once you do figure them out, simply power pull down. I sat on a school for almost 2 hours the other day doing that, and in the last few days, these fish right now are eating just about everything presented to them because they're fresh fish moving in. Cut baits, live pinfish, pilchards, and a variety of artificials like the Berkeley Jaywalker, downsized to the 100, bull spoons, your Bass Assassin paddle tails, and bucktails tipped with shrimp. Prime example is that. A guy just fished with me a few days ago. While we fished the school, that fish right there was caught on a topwater Berkeley bullet pop.
Very.
Species is going to be the snook. That bite is still exceptional throughout the whole region. Nighttime right now with the passing of the moon, your bridge spans, your intercoastal docks and seawalls, especially along those shatter lines. Your Peace River and Caloosahatchee with the water flow that's still going on towards the Gulf, along points combined with eddies, 10,000 islands on the outer Gulf, but also the Everglades backcountry due to all the fresh water. There's a good bite going on back there. So on your nighttime bite, your live shrimp, artificial shrimp, or 4 to 5 inch swim bait. And during the day, topwater plugs, prop baits, Savage Swift Reapers, 3.5 inch, or simply use live pinfish and pilchards. And I got another picture recently caught in the last couple of days of a nice snook while fishing with On a Mission fishing charters. Wind's going to the east for the weekend, probably starting on Friday. It's going to be nice. Get out and catch you some fish.
Oh, fantastic. A report for the guys on the southwest region this week, Ronnie. I'll take your hot spots from Battery Tender from here. Captain Ronnie's saying that if you're inshore, you want to check out the tarpon on the points and passes. They've been best on the lower stages of the tide from Mormon Key all the way to Gullivan Bay. And then offshore, with the weather still warm, you can get out there and find some permit on the wrecks and the artificial reefs throughout the region. Bree, I heard a rumor that you might have done a little lizard wrangling over the weekend.
I actually did. I actually was one of the lucky ones and pulled a gator tag for this year.
Nice.
So I went out over the weekend with my children and my husband and guide KC from Oak River Outfitters and got this 10.5-foot gator.
Look at that. That is a great one.
Such an interesting experience.
So I'm jealous because I didn't get to pull a tag this year.
There's Casey and Jeff.
Oh, that's a great first lizard, I'm telling you.
I'd say, right? And then there's my husband and Mia and little Leo, who's very interested as to the teeth in the mouth of that gator right there. But, you know, it was quite the experience. It was beautiful.
That's something he is never going to forget. Mommy caught a gator.
Well, caught and then some. So it was a great, great harvest. I can't wait to try some of it. And my kids will definitely have that as a core memory for the rest of their lives.
What's really neat is you got to take the whole family to go do that. And like fishing, you basically transitioned that into that next thing, which is obviously getting those gators.
A true Florida thing to do, I think.
Experience
for sure.
Yeah, the only thing you haven't done yet, I guess, is, ride a,
python?
Ride a python or, I don't know.
Something.
There's lots to do.
I'm sure we can find something. All right, well, we're keeping our eyes peeled in the Startron Central West region and saying hi to our friend from CCA Star. And then we're checking in with Captain Pat Deneen in the Sea Sucker Panhandle region. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Berkeley, Your Fish, Our Science, Bahio, Blue Light Blocking Radically Clear Polarized Fishing Sunglasses, Scoozy Shoes, the captain's choice for premium lightweight comfort, Sea Sucker, easy on, easy off, incredibly strong, Penn, let the battle begin, Kubota, together we do more. And the International Order of T. Roosevelt, protect your right to fish.
And joining me now is Andrea Gillespie from CCA Florida Star Tournament. Andrea, there's 11 days left of this tournament. And, there's a lot of exciting things that can be won in those 11 days. So, we were talking about the Star Tournament and all of the benefits that it has, but, a lot of people don't even really know about it. So what do they need to know?
So for the CCA Star Tournament, it's really simple. They just become a CCA member, they register for Star, and they get on the water and fish.
And any inshore and offshore saltwater species is eligible, right?
That is correct. We have an inshore and an offshore. All they do is catch those fish, submit those pictures, and then they have some amazing prizes that they can win.
Not only do they have an inshore division and an offshore division, there's children's divisions.
We have youth scholarships. With
the youth scholarship program, up to $20,000, I believe.
We've got, we'll do 12 scholarships, and this year will be $1 million we've given away in scholarships for youth for the future.
$1 million worth of youth scholarships from CCA. That is fantastic. 11 more days. You've also got some special categories. You've got some specific tagged fish.
Yes, we have the tagged redfish, and we also have the tagged dolphin. So the tagged dolphin is, if you catch one of those dolphin that we have out there, it's $10,000 in cash or a $10,000 scholarship.
So if a child catches that fish, he can win a scholarship for 10 grand.
That's right.
And then in the tagged redfish division, there's been how many people have caught a tagged redfish in Florida so far since the tournament started? 15 people have not taken advantage of this because they haven't been registered.
That's right.
So what are the things that you can win?
So we have boat packages. We have a contender, a deck cat, a microdraft skiff, spider boat, all on trailers and powered by Yamaha motor. So amazing things.
15 people are kicking themselves hard right now. How do people get involved so that they don't kick themselves? They got 11 days that they can go out and potentially do this, and there's a couple of specific counties that are really hot spots.
That's right. Hot spots are our Citrus County and Charlotte County. They have more tagged fish than any other counties in the state.
And how do people get involved?
They will go online to ccafloridastar.com and get registered that way, or they can call us.
ccaflstar.com. You guys and gals need to go do this because, Andrea, there's so much to win and so much time left. We appreciate you coming in this morning. And
thank you for having us.
Get registered, everyone. There's a lot of prizes to be won. All right, 'tis the season in the Startron Central West region, so let's find out when the best time is to find those tripletail with Captain Jeff Page. What's up, Page?
You got that right. I really enjoyed your bow and arrow episodes too, Bree. It's been pretty interesting. But good that Jimmy Ross is in the house, and you know we have tripletail here right now. But they're nothing like we'll have in the fall after all the crab traps get put into the Gulf of Mexico. And there can be anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 buoys out there from a mile to 3 miles offshore. And it becomes almost a habitat for them. And you can pretty much run those crab trap lines. It'll be, mid-October, early November. Run the crab trap lines, spot your fish, spin around, put your trolling motor down, and present baits to him. If you're going to throw live baits, and you do the same thing, Jimmy. If you're going to throw live baits, it's a live pinfish, a live shiner, or even a live mid to jumbo size shrimp. Free line on light leader, because the only thing they're going to wrap you around is the crab trap line or cork, and they come right off it. And they can be anywhere from 3 pounds. Sometimes they're tiny, but ones that you cast it can be anywhere from 3 pounds to 30 pounds. I had a friend last year got a 26-pounder. Now, if it's lures you like throwing soft plastic like a white gulp shrimp on a light 16th or 8th ounce jig head, Jimmy, so it'll drop slow. My photo tonight is from Captain Simon Williamson of Bayshore Charters out of Braden Beach, and that's a nice tripletail they got this summer on a straggler crab trap. That was, one that's just been out there for a while.
That's the best kind. Well, tell us.
That's it. All right.
Tell us about the permit, Paige.
The permit, Mike, especially this past week on this, I think on the approaching full moon, account of that and calm winds in the morning. The fish were laid up anywhere from a mile to 3 miles on those artificial reefs from Anna Maria south down to Venice. Everybody knows them. They're all, known places, and you can pull them up on the charts that you get at the courthouse. And the permits have been out there really well. They've been free lining, and if it's a little choppy, they've been putting a small split shot with live pass crabs, quarter to $half size, free lining behind the boat and having no problem catching their limit. And Billy Ahlstrom caught 4 or 5 the other day on the U-Pro Pompano jig. My photo tonight is another photo from Captain Simon of a nice permit they caught right off Anna Maria.
Well, that's
moving
a beautiful
inshore,
fish.
redfish, big full moons, big high tides. Look for the fish up around the oyster bars, Palmasola, Terracea Bay, outer bars at Bull and Turtle Bay. Can be schools of fish, can be broken up singles, depending on the tide and the wind. Live bait, live pinfish under a cork, gold spoon work real well. My redfish photo tonight is Captain Griffin Deans is one of his good clients with a pair of nice Manatee River Reds. And my last species tonight, tarpon. Jimmy, it's small tarpon everywhere. Out on the beach, in the bay, wherever the red minnows are. I think y'all have the same thing. Wherever those red minnows are grouped up, those tarpons are feeding. You can catch them on fly. You can catch them on twitch baits like the Berkeley stick shad or even the juke. My last photo tonight is of a small tarpon caught by Captain Josh Greer of West Wall Outfitters down in Charlotte Harbor.
Absolutely fantastic report this week, Captain Jeffrey Page. I'm going to take your daiquiri deck hotspots for the Central East region from here. Jeff says, you need to get out there inshore. There's some quality-sized speckled trout that are holding on the deeper grass flats along the west side of Lemon Bay, just north of Stump Pass. You want to use some topwater plugs or 3-inch white gulp shrimp under a popping cork. That's your best bet. And then offshore, opening season of gag grouper looks like it's been pretty good so far, with the gags holding in that 70 to 110-foot range over the hard bottom and the ledges from Anna Maria south to Venice. You want to use live pinfish or those large pilchards for your best bait.
I love that Paige is calling you Jimmy. I'm gonna start calling you Jimmy.
Well, and that's what he's known me as since 30 years ago. You know, I used to go as Jimmy.
I love it. Well,
So-
Jimmy's back. All right.
That's how I can tell my old friends versus my new friends.
Oh well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make that not a thing anymore. You're Jimmy to me. Is
There
that
you go.
okay?
There you go.
All right. I'm old now, so it works.
You're not old, but we have known each other for 11 years.
We
So
have.
that, you qualify. You're past the decade mark.
Okay, thanks. All right, wait until you see the triple-tail catches coming out of the Sea Sucker Panhandle region with Captain Pat Deneen. This is definitely the place to be for some monsters, right, Pat?
Hey, Bree, I tell you what, Jimmy does have some pretty good triple-tail fishing in his region, but I do believe that the Panhandle, specifically Apalachicola Bay, has some of the best triple-tail fishing in the state. The triple-tails are targeted May through September, with the best fishing happening during the heat of the summer, basically right now. Anglers are going to cruise the crab trap floats, the navigational markers, the oyster farms looking for triple-tail floating around the structure. But then additionally, fish are found on the tide lines and just outside the passes where they're going to be swimming with seagrass or other floats. You want to use a popping cork, 3 feet, a 40-pound leader, and a circle hook baited with a live shrimp or a small minnow. And then triple-tail are also found incidentally throughout the remainder of the Sea Sucker region. It's more of a happenstance situation. Usually we find them offshore in the weed lines, or around other, deep water floating structure. I know we found a trash tub near the Squiggles on Friday that had a pile of keeper triple-tails on it. The fish in our region run up to and well over 20 pounds. And there's a photo of Mike Roberson of Perdido Key with a really stud big triple-tail he pulled out of Mobile Bay, which is just barely outside of our region. So that's a nice one right there.
That sure is, Pat.
Inshore, Jim. If you want to catch some redfish now, is a great time in the Panhandle. Captain Chuck Kemper in Navarre, he's been catching them steadily by working the docks on the north side of Santa Rosa Sound, fishing with small live baits under a float. He's targeting docks with boat slips or deeper pockets of water, in the grass flats. But the bite in Destin has also been good on a falling tide, fishing the Coast Guard jetties and the Destin Bridge, using croakers on slip sinker rigs. And then anglers in the central part of Choctaw Bay, they've been finding pretty good, steady bull redfish blitzes off of Aliquot Bayou, where they're looking for the birds and blow-ups, and they're throwing paddle tail swim baits for these big redfish. And then finally, over in Panama City, their pass is doing similar to ours on that falling tide, but the Hathaway Bridge has been very consistent with bull reds and occasional slot fish. They're using live baits on a Carolina rig or soft plastic paddle tails on half-ounce jig heads. And then moving offshore, Jim, there's been a good white marlin and sailfish bite around the Squiggles and west near the Fads on the north side of the spur. The water's been a blended blue at best, but the bait is there, and so are the fish. So, some crews are releasing 6 or more whites a day. So keep an eye on your sounder to locate the stacks of bait. Typically, you're going to find them mid-water, but the higher in the water, the better. And then work that area hard, pulling squid dredges, daisy chains, and put out a spread of dink ballyhoos. But have a pitch bait ready, because there have been some blue marlin crashing the party, and this fishery should stay good well into September. And then finally, offshore, the king mackerel have shown back up and are being caught in consistent numbers. You're going to find them around bait schools and over natural and artificial structures, 60 to 90 feet of water. Cigar minnows, herrings on a stinger rig are the baits of choice. You're going to pull a couple on the top, pull a couple down deep behind a planer or a downrigger. And the kings are running up to and over 20 pounds. But there have been some really big Spanish mackerel mixed in there as well.
Well, that's an awesome report, Pat. Those white marlin, we don't get many of those on the East Coast, so you guys are lucky that you get them out there. We're going to take the hot spots for the Panhandle region from here. Captain Pat Deneen says, inshore, the scallop season is wide open in St. Joe Bay. They're big and plentiful. Try the grass and the potholes south of Black's Island. And then offshore, white marlin and sailfish at the Squiggles and at the Fads. You want to try Fads number 1 through 4 and troll dink ballyhoo. It's interesting, those big the marlin are bigger fish than average for your trolling species, but they will eat these little tiny baits. So it's kind of neat.
Elephants eat peanuts, as Dave says.
Right. You're exactly right.
Speaking of Dave, he's over at the CCA workbench next, taking over for some Taco Marine new products. Dave, What do we have over here? What's
We got
going
some cool
on?
stuff, man. Look at this.
Oh, Willy Wonka.
Hollywood.
Hollywood. Dr. Evil, however you want to say it. All right, and then the Front Runner Boats Northeast region is looking like a good place to be this weekend, so stay with us, and we'll be back with Captain Tommy Derringer.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Abyss Battery, power your pursuit. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, best lures, period. Black Oak LED, never be left in the dark. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
We're at the CCA workbench for the Taco Marine new product segment, Dave. We've got some really cool...
What you giggling about? The things we talk about during the
things we
commercial?
talk about during the break are great, I'm telling you. If you could only air that stuff. So what have we got here?
We're going to start down there with that handle. That's the TH Marine soft molded grab handle with stainless steel accent rings, aka the holy crap handle. It's usually that you put that handle someplace where somebody needs to hang on. You know, it's molded UV resistant handle with stainless steel accent rings on it. Makes it look pretty ritzy there. Soft over mold so you can get a good grip on it. Textured. It's got the hidden fasteners. You know, you can. Pop that little thing out and put your fastener in there.
You can just put them anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really nice.
And they come in two colors, black and graphite gray. So pretty cool little thing. If you need a place, you know, if you have some elderly people or children or you drive like Rick Murphy, you want to put handles
everywhere,
all over the boat. TH Marine Supplies to get that. Next, we have the Penn Spin Fisher 7. It's a spinning reel, really nice spinning reel. It's not too expensive. It's got CNC gears with a brass main gear. Comes in a variety of sizes from 2500 all the way up to a 10.5. You know, 9 different sizes. That one there has a 6.2 to 1 gear ratio. For that 3500 there. It's got IPX5 sealing, so the drag is sealed, the gearbox is sealed. You shouldn't get water in there. You don't want to dunk it.
Right.
But it's a IPX5. It'll take splashes and waves and whatnot. As long as you're not dunking it all the way underneath the water, you'll be fine.
You know what's interesting is most of the time when you get a sealed reel, they're a little stiff. Those seals do create some friction. This one has very minimal friction to it. Very good feeling reel.
It's got HT100 drag washers in that sealed spool, 5+1 stainless steel bearings, and it's got a full metal body, which probably is why it's so smooth. It doesn't flex. It's got a super line spool as well. It comes in a standard, a line liner, which allows it to free line, and a long cast model. So penfishing.com.
Perfect.
To get one of those.
And you can match it up with one of the rods.
Well, that's what we're talking about next. This is the Penn Battalion 2 inshore spinning rod. This has the SLC2 blanks, which is carbon fiber core with carbon fiber longitudinal wrapped around the outside, so it makes it for a really strong, lightweight rod.
For a carbon rod.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to quantify that. For a carbon rod, it's super strong.
Yes, very balanced. And it's got Fuji Alkanite guides and Fuji reel seat in here. Really nice premium cork grips. They didn't go shabby on these.
That's really good, great
These
cork.
are really nice. And they have actually rubber shrink tube handles on some of the larger models, I believe. 5 powers from maximum light to extra heavy, and they're in 7-foot or 7-foot 6-inch versions.
And where do they find those?
Penfishing.com.
Okay.
Next, we got the Bahio Tionia. Is that right, Bree? It rounds out Bahio's metal collection with small fit frame for narrow faces. I have a narrow face. They actually fit me.
Yeah.
But they're, they say it's a fishable fashion with a vintage appeal. They got the narrow temples, flexible nose pads inside there, barrel hinges, all the high quality stuff that you expect from a good pair of sunglasses. They're made out of hypoallergenic stainless steel, and of course Bahio's fabulous blue light blocking polarization. They're really. I'll put them on. I'm not afraid. I'm not afeared. The white's pretty.
Those, guys that have a narrow face, or ladies, or even teenagers, because their heads aren't quite as big yet. That's a great size for them because they're not wanting to slip off all the time. And a lot of the glasses these days are made for guys that have heads like mine, look like a pumpkin. Yeah. And they're just too big for the average person.
Yeah, I can't wear big sunglasses. I feel like.
That's a great option from Bajío.
Next and last but not least, we have some 4 Horsemen popping corks. We talk about fishing a shrimp under a popping cork all the time, and these are some of the Cadillacs of popping corks. They come in many different configurations there. 3-inch oval popper, the 4-inch popper, the 5-inch popper, the skinny corks, just a lot of different kinds. And you notice they all have a weight on the bottom, and they can come in different sizes as well, whichever ones you want. I mean, you go fishing with Jeffrey Page, you're going to be using a popping cork to catch trout at some point during the day, and they work like you wouldn't believe. I mean,
they're great. They're great for pulling action because they create commotion, and the fish come to the commotion. And then in this case, they've got an option that's got.
They have a little shrimp.
A pre-rigged shrimp.
Yeah, they make this shrimp. They sell that shrimp by itself as well. Also, this is a full ring with your mono and everything, and you just buy that and you're ready to go. You toss that out there. These weights and the way these popping corks are designed, they make a lot of noise, and you can cast them like a bullet. They cast a long way, and they just make a lot of noise, and that's what you want from a popping cork.
Exactly.
You want it to pop. They also have an armor version, which has this is the Pro model, but they have an armor version that's got like a plastic coating
it
all
almost
around
looks like a heat shrink or some kind of a more durable coating.
And they'll last. They'll last forever. I mean, Paige says these last a long, long time. So I imagine once you put that plastic on there, they're going to last.
Well, where do we go find these things, Dave?
4horsemantackle.com. They have a lot of different stuff on their website.
Awesome.
A lot of different stuff. Speaking of a lot of different stuff on our website, we have these beautiful hats Dave and I are wearing as part of our show merch. So make sure you go to our website, FloridaInsiderFishingReport.com, to get some of these and t-shirts. All right, there's a lot to report on in the Front Runner Boats Northeast region, so let's get Captain Tommy Dieringer on the line for some tripletail, tarpon, kingfish, and mutton news. Hi, Tommy.
Hey, Bree, I thought for sure you're going to introduce me and say, speaking of big heads.
Oh, I know. These glasses would not fit you, Tommy.
No, they would not. I'm a member of the Pumpkinhead Club. I feel you. So, the Front Runner Boats Northeast region, hey, we're not really a hot spot for tripletail, but we do catch them occasionally, and they're a lot of fun. Most of the bigger tripletail, they're going to be caught during the spring, along the beach when the water temperature, they like it seems like the upper 60s to the low 70s. It's really around the same time the cobia and the manta rays are migrating through. Now, just like I'm sure all other captains have reported, the tripletails are going to be hanging around any kind of floating debris. Sometimes the commercial crabbers here, they're going to set some traps out in the surf, and when that happens, we can have a really great run because just about every crab trap buoy will have a tripletail on it. Now, you can also catch tripletail in the ICW by targeting those same crab trap buoys, dock pilings, channel markers, really any kind of structure, anything that comes up off the bottom. My clients and I have caught quite a few tripletail over the years as a bycatch when we're just fishing for redfish using those popping corks you guys were just talking about. Popping cork along the grass line at high tide. You can catch everything, including a tripletail sometimes, and that's happened to me year-round, even in the middle of the winter. Live shrimp is probably the best bait. But we catch quite a few on those smaller saltwater assassin paddle tails and any kind of shrimp or minnow imitation. Man, they're so much fun, those triple tails. They're really aggressive. They'll pretty much eat just about anything, and they fight really well, and they taste delicious too. Definitely one of my favorite fish to target when they're around. And I've got a picture here. This is Derek with a nice triple tail that he caught with me in St. Augustine. We were just fishing some docks for some redfish, and that guy popped up. So that was a good fish.
Yeah, I'll take that all day long.
That's right. Now, also in shore, guys, the tarpon. They've finally started to show up in decent numbers over the past couple of weeks. It's been kind of a slow tarpon beach season. I've been seeing quite a few fish, though, in that almost 30 to 60 pound range inshore in some of the bigger creeks throughout St. Augustine, especially in the north end of St. Augustine. There's actually been some schools of pogies in the backs of some of those creeks, and that seems to be holding those tarpon in there. Now, the very first signs of the mullet run are starting as well, and the tarpon have been showing up, chasing those mullet along the bridges, the jetties. and, of course, along the beach. Now, we've been doing well by just free-lining or floating a pogie or a mullet on a circle hook, the usual stuff. But we've also been doing good this week. We've actually hooked quite a few fish, especially when I have some good casters on the boat, with that saltwater assassin Artemis shad in that new pilchard color. That thing, man, is killer for tarpon. I've been rigging it on a big swim bait hook. And one of those tarpon here, I've got a photo. This is Ryan, who caught this tarpon with me this week in a creek, in the back of a creek in St. Augustine. Now, moving offshore, guys, the kingfish. Talked about kingfish a lot this summer. You know, I haven't got a whole lot of offshore reports this week, but did get a few kingfish reports. There's some bigger kingfish on the beaches right now. They are a little hit or miss, but, you know, typically this time of year, coming off the full moon, those bigger fish come in shallow to spawn. If you're going to get out there and look for them, look for the areas holding bait, but not necessarily the pogies on the surface. But what I've been told is that watch your bottom machine real carefully. If you mark some bait in that 30 to 50 foot range, that's probably going to be a good place to start slow trolling for some kingfish. And you can use the mullet or the pogies, both working right now. And then offshore, the mutton snapper, man. I spoke to, I'm going to call him the mutton man, my buddy Captain Adam Jeffrey. He tells me he's been on a killer mutton bite this week. Adam said he mainly targets the 120 to 200 foot depths, and he likes to find his structure. And then this is a good tip. We'll look around in about 300 to 500 feet around that structure in all directions, really closely following the bottom machine, because he tells me that muttons tend to stay off of that structure a little bit. And he also said they're going to hold tight to the bottom this time of year. And he's having his clients use about 10 feet of 50-pound leader, but sometimes he'll even go up to 40 feet of leader, which that's a lot of leader if he's not getting the bite, but he's going to do whatever it takes to get the bite. Now, Captain Adam is using smaller baits like chunk sardines, chunk northern mackerels, small grunts, or even some vertical jigs. And another pro tip that Adam gave me is that you really have to stay on top of how much weight you're using out there to get to the right depth. You want to be around the bottom. Some days here lately, he said he's been going from 4 to 6 ounces of weight, and then that current in 200 feet of water starts ripping, and he has to use 24, even 32 ounces. So pay attention to that. He's catching some of those muttons. They're in the 18 to 20-pound range, and I've got a picture, and I've seen a bunch of pictures from him. They're incredible. This is one of many giant muttons that Captain Adam from Real Dream Charters has caught the last couple of weeks. Might be a good time to call him if you want to catch one of those guys.
Tommy, do you know the Mutton Man? Come on.
The Mutton Man.
From Shrek. Thanks. Okay.
Oh, man, those are some beautiful pictures and a great report, Tommy. Everybody in the Northeast region, the strike zone hotspots are inshore. Tommy is saying that you want to go check out those tarpon at the bridges, the inlets, and along the beaches, and look for the fish busting in those schools of mullet. And then offshore, the mutton snapper, like he was just showing you, that's a beautiful fish. 18 to 20 pounds, holy cow. 120 to 200 feet of water. Look around and just off of the high relief structure, because those fish aren't sitting right on top, like he was saying. Those are some really nice muttons.
They are. The biggest one I caught, I think, has been 16 pounds, which was pretty nice.
That's a big one.
18 to 20 is big. That's pretty big, too.
I'll take it.
All right. Well, it's the perfect time to purchase a brand new Yamaha during Yamaha's Cruise Through Summer Sales event. From now until August 30th, eligible new Yamaha 450 to 425 HP outboards include up to 7 years of coverage protection. 350 to 30 HP outboards come with up to 5 years, and all new Yamaha portables include up to $250 in dealer credit. For more information, visit your local Yamaha dealer today. All right, we're checking out what the Real Legend Central East and Discover Crystal River Northwest region life is like when we come back. But remember to keep up with everything fishing in Florida. Scan that QR code to check out all of our social media pages, YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy. And like I said earlier, on our website, you can find our show merchandise, plus any of the products you see here on the show. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by StarTron. Start, run, and store with StarTron. Berkeley, your fish, our science. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Front Runner Boats, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA. Takeuchi, from world first to world leader. The Florida Keys and Key West, come as you are. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. and strike zone fishing.
Welcome back, everyone. We knew this time would come. We've got our very own Real Legends Central East Region Captain, Jim Ross, here in the studio with us. So, Jim, if you're ready, why don't we get into some Tripletail talk?
Tripletail is a lot of fun. They're one of my favorite species. You know, they're an oddity, a true oddity of nature, though. And like Dave and I were talking about, I think, you know, God had a sense of humor, and he said, I'm going to cross a flounder, which lays on its side, and a grouper, which lives way offshore, and I'm going to make it float on the top of the water and call it a tripletail.
Make it look like a trash bag.
Yeah.
That's great. Great idea.
But I'll tell you what, they're so silly looking, but they're silly acting sometimes, too. Like Dave was explaining, he had one chase down a trolled ballyhoo, skipping along like a pompano would skip out of your boat wake. Yeah. So these things are really cool. You know, you can see them free swimming. You can see them like the guys have been saying all show on any kind of vertical structure, any kind of floating debris. The one thing though is that a lot of times you're just riding along and you'll just ride past one and you go, oh, it was just a trash bag or some kind of junk floating in the water. Pay closer attention when you're running around, especially in the nearshore waters around color changes. Anytime there's some slightly milky water, because a lot of times it's actually a tripletail and not just some junk floating around out there. Now they'll hit, like I said, any kind of cut bait, live bait. It's all you know, pretty easy as long as it's got scent. Tripletail will eat it. The tough part comes when you're trying to trick them into eating something. So a small jig, flies, things like that, you kind of have to, like I say, pull it away from the fish so that they don't get a good sniff on it. Because if they sniff it and it has no scent, game's over. They're not going to pay any attention to it. You have to keep their interest without letting them get close enough to put their nose right on whatever it is that you're offering them. If it's not a scented type of a product. So I've got a tripletail here that we took a picture of the other day. Nice one, you can see the little R&R float in the background, and that, you know, that fish is, you know, your typical medium to large size tripletail you're going to find around the Central East region right now.
Very nice.
We've got cobia showing up offshore, so that's really cool. A lot of the guys are catching some cobia right now. Live and cut baits are working well. Mainly it's the guys that are slow trolling for king mackerel and they're getting shots at the fish when they come up to the boat, but also fishing on the bottom in that 70 to 90 foot range. Guys are getting them right there off the Kennedy Space Center launch pads. A lot of the shoals out there with that cold water upwelling that we had pushed a lot of fish around. We had some manta rays show up for a short period of time. There's still lots of cobia in our region. You just have to find where they are and then lock in on them. But places like the Chester Shoal, the Hetzel Shoal, Ohio Shoal can, anytime there's a cold water upwelling, have cobia on them, and then they move off of those shoals to the slightly deeper offshore structures right after that cold water upwelling. I've got a picture here that Captain Mike Kipp sent me from FirelineFishingCharters.com, and he took a nice picture of Philip Moore, the party that he had out. This fish was caught in 80 feet of water on the bottom with a nice piece of chunk bait that they had down there while they were snapper fishing, actually. We've also got, going back inshore, we've got Jack Crevalle. We've got some crazy fishing in the Indian River and Mosquito Lagoon this week. Anglers are finding schools of huge ocean-sized jacks busting up on the bait fish that are inside, pogies and mullet both. They're also being accompanied by tarpon and sharks. So anytime you see any kind of explosions going on, get ready, because you want to throw your big baits. Those big saltwater assassin 6-inch jerk baits, the 5-inch Artemis shad, any kind of a large topwater plug, and for tackle, a Penn 5500 slammer or even a 6500 size reel with some 30 to 40 pound braid and some 50 to 60 pound leader is what you're going to want to use. Most of the jacks right now are running 18 to 25 pounds in these bigger schools. I've got a picture here of my son, Captain Justin. He had picked this one up for one of his customers the other day, and that's a big jack for inside our lagoon system.
Oh yeah.
My last species is snook, and the snook season is still closed for a couple of more days, but on September 1st, you guys and gals are going to be able to invite one home for dinner. And I'll tell you what, the bite has been red hot through the summertime. Live baits like croakers, mahara, pinfish, even mullet, now that the mullet are starting to run up and down the beaches, have been really good at the inlets. And then also at night, the flare hawk jigs, the Artemis shads, that Artemis shad and that pilster color that Tommy was talking about is absolute money for a bunch of different species, and it's including these snook at night. Our average snook is running 28 to 36 inches, and I've got a picture here of a nice overslot fish that we put in the boat the other day right there at Port Canaveral. So you can see there's some nice, healthy fish.
Too shabby, Jim. You know, we've caught a lot of species together, but my first tripletail was 11 years and more than 11 pounds lighter with you. in the Central East region.
In fact, there was a picture of it earlier in the show.
Yep, I saw some B-roll of it and was reminiscent a little bit. I was 23 years old, a lot older now, but you know, it was fun.
Let's talk about, we need to do it some more.
We do.
We're coming into the best part of the season in the Central East region, so let's go check out the hot spots, but we're going to do that again this year. Let's plan on it.
Rodan Marine Systems hot spots. Let's go.
You got it. Here's what I have to say about all that. Speckled trout in the middle and southern portions of the Mosquito Lagoon. Those saltwater sass and 4-inch sea shad are working really good, but you can also freeline live pigfish along the drop-offs and around the deeper grass flats. And then offshore, those cobia and king mackerel can be found in 60 to 90 feet of water throughout the region. You want to slow troll with live baits on a wire stinger rig, but have a pitch bait ready for when those cobia pop up in case there's more than one.
Perfect. Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate it. All right, now let's discover the Crystal River Northwest region with Captain Jeff Hageman, who isn't opposed to cooking up a tripletail or two. Hi, Hag.
Oh, they're one of my top 5 for table fare. They're really good to eat. Make sure you watch your hands when you're cleaning them, though, and handling them. They got really sharp gill rakers on them. A lot of fun to target. We mainly target them sight fishing, mostly around anything floating, any kind of structure like crab trap, stone crab traps, blue crab traps. Any of those lines will be really good. Floating grass, any kind of debris. Some guys put out some doormats on some floating doormats out to keep checking those areas that they put on little pieces of bottom and float them out there and get them on those things too. Anything you can get elevated in your boat, drive those crab trap lines or even channel markers and get out and drive them. Once you see them, though, don't slow your boat down immediately. You'll spook them. Drive past them, turn around, come back to them, and pitch a bait to them. As far as baits go, shrimp, sardines under a cork is really hard for them to resist. Any kind of shrimp imitation works really good, and flies are also a great way to catch them. You get the fly rod out there and catch them on a fly. It's also a fun way to catch them. Staying offshore, Captain Rob Davenport of Big Nasty Charters out of St. Pete reports a good triggerfish bite right now. And they're another great eating fish, also in my top 5. And he's catching them right now over hard bottom and anywhere from 140 to 180 feet of water. Small pieces of squid, 2 to 3-aught circle hook, 60-pound fluorocarbon leader, 6 to 8 ounces of lead, depending on the depth you're fishing. And I've got a photo here of Kieran with a beautiful triggerfish.
Very nice.
Moving on inshore, Captain Jim Parler of Big Daddy Sport Fishing out of St. Pete reports a good redfish bite right now. Captain Jim's targeting redfish in the deeper potholes and grass flats, and he's live chumming these potholes as he's moving around and looking for fish activity. He's also finding some trout mixed in with those redfish, and any kind of good current flow, and the water temperature seems to be a little bit cooler when you got that current flow, and that's where he's finding most of those fish right now. Live pilchards. 5 feet of fluorocarbon leader, about 25 to 30 pound, and a 2-aught circle hook has been his rig. And I got a photo here of a great Tampa Bay redfish from Captain Jim.
Beautiful.
Oh, jinx.
Moving on to my last species, Captain Corey Palmer of Light Tackle Sport Fishing out of Tarpon Springs reports a good snook bite right now, anywhere from down to Clearwater all the way up to Anclote Island. All those barrier islands in between and passes are doing really good right now on both the incoming and outgoing tides. Sardines, pinfish, and grass grunts are his bait of choice. 4 to 6 feet of 25 to 30 pound fluorocarbon leader. A 3-aught to 4-aught trocar circle hook is his hook of choice, and he's using either free lining them or weighting them depending on how much current he got there. And I've got a beautiful photo of Captain Corey with his client of a nice 8-foot snook.
That's a chunky one. Hey, Jeff, real quick, do you guys in your region, do you find that those tripletail will do like they do in Tommy's region and get in around the high grass, you know, the Spartina grass on that high water at all?
We don't have really any of that Spartina grass until you get up in the northern part of my region. I have never seen them up there. Most of our fish are being caught off of crab trap buoys, on anything floating. That's where we mostly get them. I've never seen them in that grass like that.
Not up in the grass, okay. And what about with all the water that came from Hurricane Debbie? Are you having any kind of runouts or any things that are producing really well right now?
Most of the stuff we're seeing right now, it's got the water so dirty, it's hard to really, I think it's moved the concentration of fish around. That hurricane brought in a lot of fresh water. I think it pushed a lot of fish around, and we're just getting back to normal.
and getting the water cleaned up a little bit, and the fishing getting back to being a little better. It did cool it off, which helped the fishing a little bit, but I think it pushed a lot of fresh water into our bays and estuaries.
A little more than what you were wanting. You needed a little bit, but not as much as you got. Well, appreciate those tips, and I'll take your Alzello Keys Marina hotspots from here. In the Northwest region, Captain Jeffrey says, inshore, you want to check out those redfish on the top of the tide and beginning of the outgoing tide, and look for the mullet schools because they're going to be hanging around them, and you want to use cut bait or live sardines. And then offshore, mangrove snapper bite's been consistent on the 25 to 65 foot of water on all of the high relief structure, and shrimp or small pinfish on a knocker rig are going to get you those mangroves.
All right, well, while you're on the road, make sure you show your support for Florida's fisheries with a Conserve Florida's Fisheries license plate. Funds from the sale of the redfish tag directly support protecting and enhancing marine resources, habitat restoration, water quality, and coastal environmental education. Make sure you get yours now at your local DMV or redfishtag.com. I just got mine in the mail.
Did you? Good for you.
Take the other one off, put that one on, so I'm pretty excited to start sporting that on the road.
They are, in my opinion, they are the best looking Florida plate we have.
They're beautiful.
They're absolutely gorgeous.
They're gorgeous.
I get constant comments on mine.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm about to get comments too. Stay alert because we're headed to the Casa Vieja Lodge Southeast region with Captain Jimbo Thomas. Get ready, we'll be back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Island Lures. Tournament Tackle. The IGFA. Every fish, every water, every angler since 1939. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. 30 years of fishing for adventure. Berkeley Pro Spec Chrome. Real Legends. Available at bellsflorida.com. And Taco Marine. Master the catch.
Today's Power Pull tip: did you know you could run your Power Pull shallow water anchors or change all of your charging priority right from a Garmin Fish Finder? If you're running a Garmin GPS map or Eco Map, you have that ability. But what I like to see is my charge data right on the screen. I have the ability to see my voltages throughout the day, and I could change my priority button by simply pressing my Fish Finder. Another thing I like is I can initiate an emergency start if my big outboard won't start, and I will get that engine started and get back to the dock. I can also run my Power Pull anchors. If you have duals, you can run them both at the same time, or you can lift them independently. To learn more about the Power Pull charge and Garmin integration, go to powerpull.com or the Garmin website. And that's your Power Pull tip of the week.
And a good one it is. All right, if we're reeling in some Tripletail in the Casa Vieja Lodge Southeast region, they better be big ones if Captain Jimbo Thomas is in charge. Hello, Jimbo.
Hello, Bree and Jim and Dave. So Tripletails, most of the Tripletail that we find here in the Southeast region are generally offshore on floating debris. And basically they're a bycatch while we're looking for dolphin. And more often than not, they are tough to get the bite when we find them offshore. And I don't usually even mess with them unless they were obviously pretty big, good size. Now, when we do mess with them, a small live bait like a pilchard or a chunk of bait put right on their nose will often get the bite. But they're finicky a lot of times when we find them out there. Now, I'm sure that a live shrimp would also work, but we don't generally have any live shrimp on board the Thomas Flyer. And for some reason, they don't hang around the trap buoys like they do in the Gulf. So it's basically all offshore on floating debris. But we also do occasionally find them along the shorelines of Biscayne Bay and throughout the ICW around sunken branches and logs. And the few times that we have found them inshore, they've been really eager to bite a live bait or a lure even put on their nose. Now, I got a photo here. This is Dave. Don't have a last name, but he was fishing with Captain Ryan Raspberry of Tail Charters, and this is a nice size 27.5-inch Tripletail. They caught this in 800 feet of water off Miami on a pallet. So hopefully they caught a bunch of dolphin on that pallet that they were catching that.
They might have just been done
on.
and said, "We've got dinner, let's go."
staying offshore. Yeah, the dolphin fishing has been anywhere from good to excellent, depending on how lucky you get. If you find that pallet, chances are you're going to have a good day. Now, most of the fish have been anywhere from 8 to 15 miles offshore, around scattered weed lines, those floating debris, and also under birds. The birds have been on top of a lot of that floating debris, pointing them out for us. And if you're lucky enough to find that big floater, there's a pretty good chance you're going to have a decent day. Once we do find the fish, we've been pitching small live baits, pilchers, blue runners, and if you don't have any live baits, there have been some live baits around any of that floating debris, mainly small blue runners. Drop a sabiki around underneath that, you're going to catch some live bait. Now, I don't know if it's just a coincidence, but it seems that they've been biting better in the afternoon, and most of the fish have been decent-sized schoolies in the 5 to 8 pound range, and there have been some larger ones up to roughly 20 pounds mixed in the last week. Got another photo here. This is Ed Giordano with one of the larger dolphin that we've caught recently on the Thomas Flyer. This one is like 18 pounds or so, which is like huge nowadays.
Yes, it is.
Well, what's going on with your snook bite, Jimbo?
So inshore, we have catch and release snook fishing. All of the inlets are holding snook. Palm Beach and Boca inlets have been some of the hot spots. They're being caught on live baits, herrings, pilchards, croakers. You want to drift them through the cuts using a Jupiter rig. And you can also bounce bucktail jigs or jigs and soft plastics along the bottom. Incoming tide and outgoing tide has been good, especially if the water's murky. It doesn't matter what tide it is. Early in the morning and the evenings are when these snook are biting the best. And the nighttime bite around the bridges and dock lines, shadow lines has also been good, fishing with live baits or that jig and soft plastics. And also any of the mangrove shorelines have been producing, especially if you got some bait activity in that area. And then we've been seeing some really good bone fishing here in South Biscayne Bay along the western shoreline. You want to fish from Matheson Hammock south to Turkey Point, and also on the outside flats from Soldier's Key south to Angelfish Creek. And it's been mainly an early morning or late afternoon bite, with the outgoing tide being the most productive. So in the afternoon, when that water gets too hot, these fish are moving into a little bit deeper water. You want to fish on the higher stages of the tide and look for the mudding and tailing fish on the top of the flats. And then on the lower stages, look for those same fish along the deeper edges of the flats and the channels where that water's a little cooler. You want to use a live shrimp or small live crab, 15 to 20 pound fluorocarbon leader, 2.0 to 3.0 bait keeper hooks, or fly tackle with a crab pattern fly.
You know, those bonefish, even though it's hot right now, you were saying that they're doing really well right now, Jimbo. And you know, when I was down in the Keys in May, we could hardly find a fish. It was so hot. You're saying that if the guys look in that deeper water, they're going to be able to find these fish even in this hot part of the year.
Yeah, so that's why you want to get out there early before that water gets up to boiling temperature. But as it does reach those higher temperatures, they're going to go down a little deeper in the cooler water. So it'd be a good idea to look for some lighter colored bottom, maybe where you can see them swimming. The contrast, you can chum with some shrimp chunks and just fish a little
all right, buddy. I appreciate that. I appreciate that explanation. That was awesome.
A lot of times.
Thank you so much, Jimbo. I'm going to take your Black Oak LED hotspots for the Southeast region from here. Look for those tail and bonefish early in the morning on the flats in South Biscayne Bay. And then offshore, look for mahi around anything floating offshore in the 15 to 20 mile an hour range, or 20 mile range. Pitch live and cut baits to those fish.
All right, well, make sure you stay with us. We're going to be right back. Well, make sure you join us next week because we are talking piers and jetties. Woo! And Rick will be back with us. And Jim, thank you for being here. You've been such a wonderful co-host once again. Make sure you tune in to Catch a Memory.
Yep.
Right?
Catch a Memory Outdoors every Saturday morning.
Every Saturday morning. Yeah. And Dave, you got fantasy football this weekend.
Dark side of the moon.
It's a great weekend. Make sure you get out there, catch a Tripletail, and we'll see you next week.
Vicky's going to lose.
You guys have a great week.
You didn't say